Welcome everyone. Today on Ethical Hacking and Wholesomeness podcast, I am hosting Morgan Rogers. That is a specialist that bridges the gap between designer and of PCB badges and the boots on the ground reality of lockpicking as the CTO of Foxpick. And I wanted to start the podcast with a disclaimer. Nothing suspicious happening here. We're talking about security. Why am I here? Was to first my reason to create this podcast was to be better at public speaking. So I think I'm like succeeding at that so far. At first I was like super shy, not really prepared, but now it's better. And then to share my knowledge and to highlight people that are really cool or important in the industry, in my opinion. So this is the whole point. And today I wanted to introduce you guys to Morgan Rogers. And if you could tell us more about yourself, introduce yourself some more, then now is your time. Thank you.
All right. So Morgan Rogers, as she clearly said there. Um, I have been I've been working in the hacking space as more of a entertainer, we'll call it what it is, in Locksport for probably 12 years. We started FoxPick about 2 years into that, so we've been doing that for a little over 10 years now. It was more of a hobby that got out of control, and just I'm not even sure how we got to where we are. It was more of an organic type thing. So yeah. Um, I've been doing circuit design and PCB design for several years. My background is extensive in electrical design and code. So yeah, I've been doing that for quite some time. Kind of pivoted, from the industrial world into more of a toy making style world. Making badges and items for people to, that don't really have I will say a utilitarian purpose, but they have more of a entertainment purpose, right? So and people seem to enjoy them, and I enjoy making them because I kind of get to control a lot of the design process for that. So yeah, I'm enjoying that too. But yeah, so as far as Foxpit goes, we travel around and we bring hacking or lock picking space, so physical security, to cybersecurity conventions. So we do a lot of them a year, all up and down the east coast of America, and yeah, that's kind of the mile high view of what we do and who I am. So,
Yeah, that's yeah. Actually, just wanted to say that I met you on some of the conferences, and Ginny, and like I was like so impressed, so to talk about you with the badges that you create and like all like the design that goes into it. You are like very enthusiastic and like willing to share your knowledge with like people that ask questions. So I think that like it tells a lot about your character, like who you are as a person, and it's like this is your passion as well. So I can clearly see that. So yeah, thank you.
yeah, and I enjoy sharing the knowledge of those who ask and those who don't sometimes. uh, but yeah, so yeah, I like talking to people. That's probably the reason I enjoy going to the conferences and stuff. So yeah, and I'm glad we got to meet. I think we met in Colorado. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Colorado. Yeah, or Deadwood. Excuse me, Deadwood.
yeah.
Deadwood. Yeah, that's right. So
Yeah, that's North Dakota, right?
yeah.
Okay, so my next question is because you already said something about your background, but like I always try to also ask what makes you happy, what brings you smile, and like what brings you joy, like from the personal side. What who are you as a person?
So that's
Oh,
a lot of things. Oh, sorry. South
yeah,
Dakota. Yes, she said.
yes, South
Um,
Dakota.
so what makes me smile? A lot of things. So I enjoy creating things. I have a wonderful wife. I'll put that in there. She kind of gets me out of the house and out of the box where I would sit in this little room all day and create things. So she makes sure I eat and sleep and shower, I guess. But but yeah, so just I enjoy creating things, and it doesn't even matter what now. I enjoy creating, badges. I enjoy creating my games like we started making. I enjoy creating little widgets that don't really have much purpose other than like a bracket that screws a pipe to a wall or something. I enjoy the creation process more than I do the actual stuff. So, but yeah, that's kind of what makes me. I like putting things into the world. So. but I enjoy traveling as well. So yeah, so just all that, I try to get out there and meet new people and see new things too, and kind of expand what I know. I enjoy learning. That's one of the biggest thing I think with the creative process is start where you know and go where you don't, right? And those kinds of things. So and then you learn from that,
Oh,
and then hopefully I get to pass that on. So
yeah, and hopefully, because I really want to see you guys in like the besides I want to create, and hopefully I will see you in Poland next year.
hopefully, yeah.
Fingers crossed. Uh, okay, so can you tell us some more about your background in mechanical, electrical, and software design, and how did your skill translate to field of cybersecurity, or does it really? Maybe it doesn't.
Well, it's yeah, I won't say it crosses directly. I mean, coding obviously does. I am a lot of self-taught coding. Obviously in college you dabble, and then when you get into the real world, it's a whole different thing, right? So and just a matter of always having to learn new things all the time. But my background comes from just a want to know more, right? So I started in more of the computer engineering side, and I kind of brought that into the electrical side. Mechanical, I just taught myself one day. I was not happy with with what I had available or my skills in that field, and there were things I wanted to make, and in order to get them created, I had to learn some mechanical ability. So 3D CAD work and how stresses work and bolt sizes and all these little weird things no one thinks about when you design something that I had to sit there and learn, and then you think about it a lot when you see something that someone else created. You're like, wow, that's nice how they did certain things, or a radius on something, or something just uh, that's not really a feature, but the way it feels in your hand matters sometimes, right? So products that succeed, I feel have a good touch and feel and functionality. Uh, so yeah. How that translates, I don't know. Again, it's one of the things where most of my life I kind of go with what makes me happy, right? So if it's learning, which is what it usually is, then I'm constantly going in that way of pushing the limits of what I know, filling in the gaps, and then standing on that and keep going ahead, right? And until your skills are more honed, you've made the mistakes, you've learned from those mistakes, and then you keep building on it, and then eventually you end up with something that used to be a square, and now you've made it a circle, and now a circle's a complex shape, and then you start looking at the other facets of everything else with that. So that doesn't need to be you know solid. Can it be hollow? Where are the stress points? Stuff like that. So something like simple as a foot for something, right? It could have just been a block. It would have solved the purpose, but that didn't look good. And so now all the stress points are only there for where we need them, and structurally, and then you radius it out so everything has a nice feel in the hand, and it's not just a little block, right? So those kinds of things that you have to think about when you design is something I had to teach myself, because it's not, it's not what I went to college for, right? So we went to college to do, this this kind of stuff, this tiny stuff, right? That no one seems to care about, and it goes in a case that no one sees, right? So, but yeah, uh, yeah, I just want to ramble there for a minute, but yeah, this is just how I am. I enjoy the whole process of putting, electronics in cases, code on cases, so when the user gets it, it has a good feel, a good touch, the interfaces work well, and all that translates into mechanical, electrical, and software, right? That's how we interface with the world now, right? So.
Yeah, yeah, and it's very important that it's like something that you like doing. So, like
Mm.
it shows in your work that it's like good quality and well thought. So, and yeah, it has a battery, and then you have to like figure out what kind of a battery does it have to be. Like, does it burn your fingers, like stuff like that? Yeah, it's like yeah,
Well, and I can break that down a little further, because I'm sure there might be people out there who want to know how do you start? Like, what do you start with, right? And you
yeah,
start with
yeah, yeah.
more like like a scope. So you work with a client, and the client has a budget and kind of an idea of what they want, right? So this is a recent badge we just put out there. It's got a marquee on it, right? Yeah, and
Oh, that's so cool.
and just a matter of, we didn't want to go with the lipo, because when you go with a lithium. Did I lose my mic? I'm gonna switch mics. Can you still hear me? I'll cut
Yeah,
my
yeah,
mic
I
off
can
because
hear
it
you. Yeah,
died.
yeah.
So basically, what has to happen is you have a lipo, and it you have to have charging problems. You have to worry about overcharging, things shorting, puncturing the battery pack, and all that. So a lot of times we go with just a standard alkaline style. With that presents other challenges, things like current draw and whatnot. So we have to really focus on even how we write code, right? The turning certain things off on the chip reduces power savings, things like that. So we choose a power source is where I always start. I kind of keep it as light as possible, so I use the least amount of batteries as possible to get things to work right. So you're not like dragged down with it on your neck, because and 3 is about the limit for where I will go with that. 2 I try to keep it at, and 1 is ideal. A lipo pack, little thing there, much lighter, much more condensed, much the power uh, uh, you know, consumption and all that is better for them. So they get a little bit lower life, plus they're rechargeable. So, but again, with that comes circuitry and safety things and all that kind of stuff. So, and the costs associated with such. So, a lot of conventions just like the little badge there. So, and then we go with, okay, what's the function of it? We want a marquee. They wanted to be able to put change the name via a web interface. So we went with the ESP32s, which have built-in for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, the BLE, and all that kind of stuff. So kind of the nature of the progression. If they didn't need the Wi-Fi, we probably went with a different kind of chip. Beyond that, you have to figure out what size of code you're going to have. That will determine what chip you use for the controller, and then a price point. Right? You can go really fast and really cheap. But if you don't need the really fast, maybe you can get it slower and save you some battery life for the same price. So um, you know there's a lot to it. Beyond that, we go with size. So how do we get all this to fit? And we don't want it to get much bigger than this badge here. Anything bigger than this, um, typically is
Too
you know
heavy.
intrusive uh, around your neck. It gets heavy. You bump into it and whatnot. Um, and so I kind of keep things this size. So the LEDs kind of worked out in the format when I laid them out to be that size. And I kept it in that frame rate. And then just weird things like you should radius corners. No one likes sharp corners and things like that. So just the design principle of the physical part of it, and then where are things? So as we carry them around all day, right? We don't want switches breaking off and things like that. So kind of you want to keep them on top, so they're not dragging and next to something that's going to keep it from getting bumped into. And then as far as the USB ports, things like that, they typically go on the side, so they're out of your way when they're on the desk. And people are doing there was a capture the flag challenge on this badge as well. So I put the USB on the side, so when they plug it in, they it's not in the way, and the lanyard can hang off to the back of the table. So all these weird things that you don't think about while you're using it. I have to think about when I'm designing it, because you don't get it wrong. When they order 300 of them, you want them all to work and be useful. So yeah, and I rarely get a chance to get like a prototype made. So I typically lean on a lot of designs I've already made to build these out like that. But yeah, but then that's a fancy, complicated badge. But then we do simple things that are just a marquee, right? So it's just a marquee light, and it does have a microcontroller. Good, all the microcontroller does is light up the LEDs, right? So not a lot of code, not a lot of feature, but it's a you know cheap little badge, and it made
Uh,
an impression that people want to go to the thing. So
can I just like
fix
uh,
my
take like a tiny little break. Is
Yeah.
that
Okay.
fine if I change the screen for like a second? I'll be
Yep.
just right back, guys. Sorry for that. 3 minutes break. You can grab a tea or something. Welcome back. And I have a question to Morgan. So let me focus here. Your work for Fox Pick involves creating PCB designs and custom 3D prints. Can you walk us through your process for designing and manufacturing these components? You started talking about it like a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, so I start with power sources. That's typically where you do most of your layout and design. And from there you build off to how is it going to be used. So I probably already have a power source in mind when they start talking about consumption, things like that. So, um, and then we go from that to what does it need to be used for, and from there uh, we pick a microcontroller, right? Or if it needs a microcontroller, right? It could just be a flashy light that doesn't need a microcontroller. But and then from there we build out. So and then it's a matter of how the client wants it to look, how they want it to perform, what environment is it going to go in, right? So typically we work with I'll use several places, but they want their logos and all that on there. So I make sure I leave ample room for that, on the board. So when people flip it over, all that stuff is there, right? So from there, it's just a matter of being creative with it, right? So they wanted a matrix, and there were several ways to get that done, but using what they call a Neo Pixel or a WS2812 LED is the easiest way to get that done without a lot of wiring. So you can just kind of chain them all together, and then you can kind of make them do whatever you want beyond that with one wire. So it saves some layout, it saves some time on that end of it. Plus, I already have that circuit done, tested. We can just drag and drop it into designs, right? Beyond that, we use, I used to call a buck boost regulators. It helps you maintain battery life. A lot of regulators, they'll kind of clamp the circuitry to get the power out, and that produces losses. Buck boost, you're kind of chopping out the voltage that you want, and then as it gets lower in voltage below the level that you want, you'll start boosting it up there for you as well. So it keeps a nice even clean. I say clean, but it keeps a nice even voltage. For your chips. Because it's pulsing, you also have to worry about filtering on that side too. But again, that's all power control and power structure design, and I have tested and vetted versions of that I drag and drop as well. So, and then beyond that, it's a matter of wiring up the microcontroller. Digital is, if you want to get into this, digital is a good place to start. Basically, if you just connect the lines together, it will probably work. There are good ways to do it, and in industry, you will there are lots of opinions on what you should be doing, and a lot of them conflict, especially in the analog world, because of you know bleed over and all that kind of stuff that you can get in crosstalk and whatnot. But in the digital world, most of the time you can just you know put a wire to it and it will most likely work. So it's a good place to start if you're just looking about making a little breadboard or something that you have on your bench and you want to make a circuit from it. Digital is a good place to start. I recommend, though, if you're just starting out and you have no electrical background, uh, buy pre-made buck boost or regulators. That way you don't burn your house down. It's a yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to burn anything. And actually, I just remember that we had a question in the chat. Just let me find it.
Someone asked it, what software I use.
Yeah,
So I use JLC PCB has their own called Easy EDA, and if it's a fairly robust tool. It's a good place to start. There's a lot of support for it, and when you're done, you can order right from them. So it's a an all-in-one tool where you don't have to figure out, get your Gerbers and all these file formats put together, your bill of materials, all that pick and place stuff. You can just hit buy and they will upload all that to their site for you. You can kind of go through a walkthrough and have them make it. And they have a full warehouse attached to it as well. So their library is, so when you go to have it made, they'll actually solder it up and make everything for you. And yeah. So it's a great tool. So easy EDA is and then if you just want to get into it, not going to buy it through other places, you want more control of your Gerbers and all that. KiCad is another one. I think easy EDA is built around the KiCad. So that's KiCad. And that's another one. Professional wise, a lot of the industry uses Altium or I'm saying, I can think of the other ones out there. Altium is what I've been exposed to the most. Yeah, there's a bunch out there that are professional, but if you want free ones, EasyDA and KiCad are a good place to start. So yeah,
Thank you. And my next question is a bit connected to what you already started telling us, but and it's like a long question to ask a simple thing, but bear with me. You
yeah.
also design conference badges like those seen at B-Sides events.
Mhm.
What inspired this project and how did it tie into your broader interest in design and innovation? And so it's like a long question to ask
Yeah.
what got you interested in creating conference badges?
So what got me started was, of course, Foxpick. I wanted my own badge. I was seeing the badges around and badge life and all that kind of stuff, right? So I wanted Foxpick to have their own badge, and it was more of a exclusive badge for people who won our challenge, right? Because we raise money for Hack for Kids, and that's HAK for the number kids, KDZ. And basically it allowed people to, they're trying to win our competition to win the badge, and that raises money for them too, right? So it was more of a way to generate some revenue or get people a challenge they wanted to win because they could win these badges. So that's what kind of started it. I of course have been designing electronics way before that for industry. And and then I reached out to the cons, and they were like, hey, you design badges for this, and we were working with the B-Sides already, and then we started working with designing badges for them too. So and then from there, just word of mouth, and people like what we do and like what we stand for, and I try to be easy to work with, I guess, and as far as the creative side goes, and and yeah, it kind of just kind of bloomed from there. So yeah, just a matter of good work, and honing the skills to make it work. But having never designed badges in this format before, it was nice to start with my own and build from there. And then people like what we were doing, so that's kind of where it all stemmed from. Yeah,
Yeah, actually, I already talked with Ginny, so I'm still like on this idea that I want to order badges for Besides Białystok. It will have a bison in it, and like we'll say besides probably. So
yeah,
yeah, I'm really looking forward to like seeing what kind of a design that will be.
yeah.
So yeah,
And again,
exciting
we
times.
we we do we do complicated stuff. I say complicated, but we do more advanced stuff. Than just the LEDs. I do full LED screens and all that too. So it's whatever the budget or you know
Yeah,
whatever features that you want, we can make work. So, and again, I'm always up for pushing the envelope too. So, of what can we put inside of a badge to make it work or whatever else. So um, yeah, and I always have some ideas sitting on the shelf of things that I want to make. So I just I try to get that around too. So the next badge I make has things that I kind of wanted to see or be out there. So
yeah. I have my stickers here, but like also want to order like a badge with my logo on it
yeah.
with you guys.
So,
So I think that could be cool.
yeah, this is
Like
the B-Sides Nashville badges. So they said there, and yeah, that's that. So we can do multicolor, and I make 3D stuff all the time. So and 3D printing was another thing that I never thought I would be doing now from where I was, but um, we I started out in the infancy of 3D stuff, and where you had to like build your own printer and pretty much do everything in a manual fashion to get any sort of print job, and to be where we are today with the 3D printers that are really just an absolute tool, right? I don't have to think about what kind of plastic and feed rates and what's the flow rate of a plastic or the melting points and all these crazy things we had to work out in the past. Now I just hit print and it comes out and it's usually pretty good. So yeah, I have it has allowed us to really change how I design things, and what I can get done in a print job now, with the ability to change a filament spool and changes all these little colors and in the same layer. We don't have to like stop the job and load a new roll and all this kind of crazy stuff we were doing in in the past, right? So uh, yes, and before people start to ask, I use a lot of bamboo printers, mostly because they were one of the first ones that came out with an actual tool that wasn't, a hobbyist type thing. And then of course there are other ones around now that are equal to, if not better than, but because I got familiar with those and already have the investment, that's kind of where I stayed. But that's a whole nother conversation about pluses and minuses of 3D printing. Uh, but yeah, it's allowed me to design things and really change what our products look like. As far as that goes. So that manufacturing process has really changed a lot. And then designing for 3D was something that wasn't really thought about when we started doing these kind of things too. And now I see a lot of the design work where we have to worry about where gravity is, right, when we design something, because it has to be built from the ground up, and overhangs and all that stuff, and the stuff start to matter. So but with the new advanced tools we have, it's allowed us to do a lot more complex shapes, in with internal voids and internal stuff that we couldn't manufacture with CNC in the past. So yeah, but yeah, it's a whole other arc we could go on. But
Thank you. That's like that's really cool. And like I for a moment I forgot that I'm on the podcast live. Like oh, is this like a social conversation? Tell me more, you know. But my
yeah.
next question is, your creation of Tic-Tac-Toe and Felix Breakout is quite impressive, and I really like the idea. What inspired these projects, and what do they represent to you?
So it all came from the hack for kids thing, right? And and just a matter of we wanted to be unique, right? There's a lot of lock sport groups, and we wanted to kind of stand out, and LEDs tend to do that, right? So you make it light up, people will be drawn to it just like flies, right? And they like the flashy lights. So it kind of stemmed from that. I started out early on with just a rough challenge, and I. I kind of wanted to build around that. I saw someone else had a lock sport game that had a like a graphic time clock, and when you pick the locks, it would time you and things like that. And I saw that, and as an engineer, I'm always like, I could do better, right? That's how we all think. And so I set out to do better, and that's kind of how that kind of stemmed. And like when I started it, I didn't even know how to like code in Python, how to do games or graphic work, and it was an exercise in learning how to do animation and how to get. I wrote it in uh in in Python, and what's the structure of when you design a game with code, like how do you break it up into modules and all this kind of stuff. So learning that, and teach myself that, and teach myself the graphic work of how to get the animations and everything to look clean and repeatable. And then how do you tie that back into the physical world, right? Like how does the game know you picked a lock, or all that kind of stuff. So designing those kinds of things. Before, it was really rough. It was like some old copier parts in on the inside as switches, and like the mechanical parts of the lock would hit the switches and stuff. It was really rough. And so from that, I was like, this has to look better and be better. And so that's when we started. I sat down. I was like, I need to make a smart lock, or a game lock, we'll call it this. And so that's when I started designing these things here. And so and then before, it was just a manual deal. You had to look a relocker on the bottom. But then when we got to the Pick-Tac-Toe, which again, like all things, I think we were in Asheville at a convention, and we had the Felix's game, and someone said, "Wouldn't it be cool if?" And if we had the Pick-Tac-Toe where you picked locks, or the Tic-Tac-Toe where you pick locks and whatever else. And I said, that's a good idea. And so we went from there with that, right? So, and what seemed like an easy exercise in, like, okay, you get 9 locks or whatever, and you pick it and whatever else, turned out to be really complicated, because now there's it's 18 locks, right? It's not just 9, because you're and because to take turns really doesn't really add any sort of competition, right? Because the tic-tac-toe game has certain wins if you start in a certain place, right? So I felt it better if you challenge for the lock, right? So you have the 2 boards, you pick your board, someone else is picking their board, and when you pick it on your side, it blocks their side, right? So it's kind of like a challenge with, I got to get 3 in a row as well. So there's some stress involved with that. As your board starts turning red, you're like, oh no, I got to jump down to this square, I got to stop picking up here and pick down there. But that, what seems like, again, easy, uh, after 7 years, I realized it was not. And it was a constant. How do you get this to work? How do we tie the locks together? How do you make it talk? What's it has to be fast. It has to work. It has to take a lot of people beating on it, right? Because you're playing with the lock and they're really getting into the game. So making the parts robust, making things that are easy to assemble, reducing part count, all that kind of stuff, and then just kind of making it into this type cell, right? So we have the lock body, which has stuff in it. When it's not, this is just the plastic parts, but and then designing custom electronics, that that run it, and all that kind of stuff. So it was an exercise in a lot of things I didn't know, and of course, you don't know what you don't know until you start doing it, right? And so yeah, in the first 3 versions of it were just total trash. They were really bad, but again, we learned from that, and I built upon those things until we are where we are today. And I actually have another generation coming out here very, very soon. I'm hoping to have it done before B-Sides Nash, or NOLA, I guess you should say. And because it's the the I say the cleaned up version of what we're doing. The electronics in the current version, they have some faults that I wanted to get rid of, and so I sat down and redesigned all that for the new one. Um, but yeah, it was started out as, again, me just wanting to raise money for hack for kids, and then we kind of wanted to make our stuff show up, and people want to have us come to their con, so we can again have more opportunity to raise money for them. And from there, we just kind of built around that. And we've I like to think we are always trying to push to be unique with what we do, and bring a certain level of game and showmanship, to get people involved, and if nothing else, just have a place where people can come and hang out, compete, and network and talk and pick locks, right? And then kind of how it all came to be. Um, I didn't pick locks before I started doing this stuff, so it's been, I've gotten a lot better, obviously, over the years. Uh, but yeah, I never even gave it much thought. But Jeannie, my wife, got me into all this, and then I kind of just used my engineering to build the toys, right? And that's where we are. So yeah, I just did it kind of just make us stand out. I guess that's how it started out, and as a challenge of, can it be done? Because it's not I don't think it's new, but I think we're one of the first ones to come out with an actual working game, in this space, right? As far as the tic-tac-toe goes, right? There's other lock sport games, and you've seen a lot of them over the years. But yeah, I just wanted to make a nice, clean, polished game that looks like it came out of a box, right? And that's kind of what I kind of pushed to do. And even in the new versions, there's just things I've just cleaned up to make it better.
Yeah, that's like a really a professional looking game, and like it's like really impressive that you made it yourself. And well,
Yeah.
I had like a quick thought that you're both are like such a power couple to me, because your interests like just blend together, and That's how folks pick came to life. So that's like really
Yeah,
amazing.
and that's, I guess, another one of like a strong point, right? I'm the technical side, and and she is too. I'm gonna lie, she's very good with computers and software and all that. So I can't say she's not technical, but I'm the engineer, and she's the person who kind of keeps me on the right path, right? Because we tend to stray, right? We like, hey, I get curious over here, and we try to spend too much time doing something else. So she's kind of the project lead on all this kind of stuff to say, hey, here's the deadline, it's got to be done, and here's what needs to happen. So yeah, just keeping me on track, because again, if it was up up to me, there wouldn't be a lot going on, as far as I would spend weeks on like a little gear or something stupid, right? And it's like, now it's like, does it work? Yes, move on. And so just keeping the train going. So
Okay, and my next question is like a weird thing to ask this, but how do you balance creative pursuits like game development or custom design work with more technical aspects of your job? It's like how I understand it, probably you just do your job and then do stuff that are fun to you. But like, what's your answer there?
Um, so I mean, a lot of the electrical stuff does bleed into everything else, right? The other half of that is I don't know, I like blending art with math, right? And that's kind of how I see everything. So it's not enough to work; it's got to look good too for me. So I try to balance everything out, as far as this is functional, but it needs to, we have to take a second look at it to get it to work right, or to feel right, and which is a weird, a concept that a lot of the engineering world doesn't do directly. You give that off to a marketing team to say, we want it to look like this, and all your stuff has to fit inside of this box, right? I do both sides of that. So which is it's nice, because now I get to control what goes inside and how it goes inside, and then what it goes inside of, right? So I can make calls in the design processes on both sides. But yeah, just uh, for me, I like to keep it balanced in functionality is something we do first, I guess, and then beyond that, look and feel, right? But sometimes we also navigate to a way where of uh, we need it. We'll take away a little bit of feature just so it fits where we want it to, or it's not oversized, or and then cost comes in beyond that, right? You can't make it if you can't afford it. So we have to really choose parts and batteries and boards and manufacturers and even layer counts, right? I try to keep everything on a double layer board, because that's the cheapest we can make. Some boards go to 4 layers and better, just so we can get more stuff in a smaller footprint to get it inside of something else. Of course, that drives the cost up, uh, but yeah, I am. Yeah, it's I live how I work, I guess, and this is something I would be doing for free, I think, if I wasn't doing it for a career. I was, every time I get a chance, I'm constantly designing something else, stuff I will never build. There's things I have on my hard drive that I spent hours, if not days, laying out or designing, and they will probably never be built. It was more of an exercise of, how does this tool work, or how do I make these complex shape, and I'll sit there and create something in my head and want to get it in out, and I get it out, and it's like, okay, that's nice, and they'll never be built. And so, and that's just who I am. It's a matter of, not just it has to be created, sometimes it's just something to actually learn. And that's and even with like the new the AI stuff coming out, right? And I was hesitant to jump into that, but now the more I use it, the more I leverage it to kind of solve, I say solve problems, but we solve, create solutions. We'll say what it is. We create solutions for problems I have, right? Or maybe give me options, right? Sometimes I could go through and look at data sheets and study all these microcontrollers or all this, or AI can do that for you, right? So it doesn't
excuse me from not knowing the information, but it does help you filter it down to chewable bites, right? And so that's why I express that everyone out there needs to learn what's coming up new, and then use those tools. And even if you're not going to make it, but it helps to use the tool to build something in the virtual world, so you've actually learned what you're doing. We tend to read a lot of stuff, but until you actually do it, I don't think it actually sets in, right? So yeah, I do a lot of that. I create little virtual tasks, we'll call it this, and use that to kind of learn how to do the steps. So now it's a physical and visual thing that I've done. So when I need to use it, it's actually built in now, to instead of just reading about it, or watching a video on it or something.
So I'm sorry, I just like started thinking about something else. So would it be possible to create like a hacking challenge for people on, like on a badge, so they connect the computer and there is like a challenge?
Yeah, so there are actually two badges that I've had experience with that do that. This is one of them. There was some hacking stuff on this badge in the code. The OAuth guys did that. There's another badge that was called Hack the Badge. I think Charleston did. I didn't design that badge, but they did. And basically there was like some okay, I have it on my desk. You have it on my desk. They had like some LEDs that would light up, and as you figured out the password, or broke into this, or got this hash key, or whatever else, it would light up another light for you, right? And a lot of the conventions are now tying the badge into certain parts of their of the capture the flag deal, right? So if you pick do certain things with the badge, it spits out a hash key on the serial port, and you could take that hash key and load it in, and get points for it. So yeah, anything's is possible. The world we live in with microcontrollers and the price of them now is fascinating. Growing up, this chip would have been the size of this badge, right? Much less
Yeah,
tiny
exactly.
with the Wi-Fi and all that stuff in it. So,
So sorry,
so
I
yeah,
just like digressed a bit, but like yeah, thank you for answering. Like it was really interesting. Okay, my next question is like I don't know. Uh, Let me just ask the question. Can you share any advice on your for young designers who are interested in exploring what you do as a career path?
yeah. So it basically so the creative process is always not the same for everyone, right? We all have a different way of looking at things, or stuff like that. But basically, don't be afraid to go into things you don't know. There's lots of information with the internet available to you. There are lots of free tools out there. My One of my goals when I was doing the Pick-Tac-Toe and all this stuff was, can I do it for free? And yes, you can. Like, I use FreeCAD to design all the physical parts of it. It's got a steep learning curve, but it's feasible, as people can see. Again, the for circuit design, the EDAs that are available, like your KiCads and Easy EDA and all that kind of stuff, are available for free out there. There's lots of uh, there's Google SketchUp. There's all kinds of little tools to build for 3D modeling. There's lots of 3D models out there already that are ready to go. So if there's something you're thinking of, go ahead and Google it first. Maybe someone's already built it for you, right? So it's always a good place to start. And then just see what other people are doing, and then start looking at things in a subjective way, right? Why is something the way it is, or why did someone do it this way? There's a lot of knowledge in something that exists, because someone had to think about all these problems before. And if you're new to it, you don't know the hurdles yet, right? And so why is this shape? Why is this size? Why did we run power this way? Why did they use this kind of battery? Why is it this color? Why is the radius on this certain way? All these little things that you don't think about until you start making things and realize that this is a pokey edge, and that's why they rounded the corner off. Just stuff like that. That really allows you to not make those mistakes, so you get ahead faster. But yeah, and then it takes a lot of work. A lot of sitting down and just teaching yourself and failing a lot, and that's kind of what has to happen. So you learn, people in society, uh, you know, we treat failure as a bad thing, and I have never seen it that way. It is, you are going to fail. If you're not failing, you're not doing it right, right? And so you're not pushing yourself, right? If you're always succeeding, then you're not pushing yourself hard enough, right? You have to fail so you learn, what to do wrong, or what to do right in this case. And then that's a lesson you will never forget, right? If when that failure will sit with you. And so when you come up to your next design, your next project, whatever else, you're like, I'm not doing that twice, so let's get it right this time. And with a lot of our stuff, it was, we were designing stuff, and I was paying for it out of my own pocket and all this kind of stuff, so you really didn't want to get it wrong. So, but again, the stuff we got wrong, you got wrong, and then you move on. But yeah, I just can't stress enough that you are going to fail a lot, fail quickly, and you'll succeed faster in this world. But yeah, and that doesn't necessarily go toward design, but in your careers or
Yeah.
whatever else. Don't be afraid to do something because you're worried you are going to fail. I feel like that failure will teach you more than success ever will. So
That's like, actually, thank you for telling that out loud, because like we, like human beings, are scared of failing, and we just like, sometimes we just don't try something because I don't know anything about it. I will definitely fail.
yeah,
But that's like not the right way to do it. Like, as you said, you have to fail to grow, and
yeah,
to get out of your comfort zone as well, and then you get like better at what you do. And
yeah,
yeah,
and
that's like
and
very important. Yeah.
and you learn, and that's the most important part from that. And then you can branch off on that failure too, right? So you can say, we can't go that way because of this, or here's the end of what I know and here's why. And now we can start searching the internet or finding the information to learn it, or taking a class or reading a book that has it in there. So yeah, and that's kind of how I've gotten anything done with anything that I've had success with, is lots and lots of failures. Like, there's probably a many trash bins of projects where you just constantly have to like change something. And again, 3D printing has really changed that world too. So now we can make these little things. I can make a little change and print it, see how it works, and make a change again. So you are constantly failing fast, right? Code the same way. Get it out there, get something working, and then tune your algorithm, tune the structure, tune the usage of memory, tune your clock cycles, tune these things. So, but I guess the takeaway here is just start, right? I think that's a lot of people get an idea and they get so wrapped up in the details that they actually forget to start the project. I'm guilty of that too, right? So we tend to focus on the design or this, or we focus on this one little part, or we give up because it seems overbearing or a lot. And breaking it up into smaller chunks, just getting an LED to come on, getting the right script to pop up on your screen, the hello world of whatever you're trying to do, right? Getting that first step and then building on it is kind of the takeaway from all of that is you've got to start to know what you don't know, and you got to start to see what you're going to get, to see how it starts to work out. We have the idea, but we don't know how to get there, but you've got to start walking to get there, right? So
Can you?
and then you learn along the way.
Thank you. And can you maybe share some tips with the people here that are interested in designing badges, that you learned the hard way? For example, like, I don't know, which battery to choose, like tiny, I don't know,
Uh,
like
so
three things that come to your mind. I'm sure there's like a lot.
so I have so certain certain chips behave different ways with different kinds of protocols, right? So when we communicate with microcontrollers, we have what we call SPI, which is like a serial type uh, communication. There's I2C, which is a two-wire communication, and there's UART stuff, and then there's Wi-Fi and all that stuff too. But talking to, say, your LEDs, or talking to a screen, There's a version of this badge that never made it to market because the way this chip talks to the uh, to the screen, I chose an I squared C. When I went through the library, it was actually lighter to use the SPI protocol. So there's an I squared C version of this badge and a SPI version of this badge. So just like that, where you may make a mistake and just how something talks to something else on the same board. I made a mistake on some power control. So basically, the power was dirty and it was noisy to the point where it didn't allow stuff to talk. And it was something stupid like a diode, and it just didn't need to be in there. And so it's just there's little things like that. But there's no. And then there's, I think this board here, it's trash. Not to say trash, but there's just things on it that, uh, made it noisier, and if you unplug the USB too fast, it would blow it up because of some fault protection I didn't put into the badge. So there's just a lot of little things like that. All things that are searchable out there, but sometimes we forget when we design things. So when it comes to circuit design, I say start with the digital side, get that hammered out. There's a lot of already, the manufacturers release what they call a reference design, and that's a good place to start. And then beyond that, power circuitry will require a little bit of search because that's kind of tailored to what you're making. So there's no reference design for that. But again, some of the manufacturers do have the reference designs for those chips as well. But then just things like USB protection and all that, those are things you just kind of have to search and learn. And sometimes the hard way, but hopefully you do it in a small batch run, and I rarely do a large run of non-tested stuff. So most everything is known to me, or I do 5 or 10 of them. So and then if something's wrong in there, it's corrected. Then the big run will happen. But yeah. And then but I could probably talk all day on mistakes I've made, right? We all make them. So but I tend to make, as you design things, I'll just say this is save those designs work, right? And when you design a schematic, kind of break your design up, your schematics up into power and digital. I actually break mine up into like the screen has its own page, the controller will have its own page, the battery circuitry and charge circuitry will have their own page. So you can sit there and focus on power control and then getting all that done and right. And then you move on to, okay, this screen needs different power stuff. So it's on its own page to create those powers. And then your chip and all that is on its own page. So now we can focus on filtering and communications and all that kind of stuff. So so break your job up just like you would code or something into those. These are all tied together, so they need to be on the same page. This is an analog system; it needs to be on its own page. So you don't miss things. If it's all on one big page, you tend to forget that there's something in your power you probably should put in before you go to your digital stuff. So, and then before you, when you start laying things out on a board, make sure that the same thing applies there too, right? Your digital should be in its own little spot. Your power should be in its own little spot, and things that are alike should be alike. And so, I always tend to, before I even lay a component down, drag all the components that are alike in their own little groups and kind of get them, in their own little zone off the board, and then start dragging them as a full piece onto the board, so we don't have any sort of overlap or crosstalk or noisy problems, bleed over problems.
Uh, Thank you. And that's like actually probably someone out there is taking notes, and there's a comment in the chat, USB protection. I just plug and play.
You plug and pray, yeah. And they're actually a chip now they make for that. You can't really see it. It's on this board here, but it's a little teeny tiny little chip. But basically, it's a Schottky diode scenario, or a TVS, excuse me. So it's a one little drop in place piece that allows you to protect the V-bus and the digital PNNs without having to have a bunch of little diodes there like you used to have. So, but yeah, that's you know a quick way to lay that out.
Thank
And
you.
USB-C requires some special notes too, like some pull-down resistors like that. But easy thing to Google and research. That was another mistake I made. I'll say that too. When USB-C first came out, I just dropped the connector on there and then just wired it up like I would a USB-B or the like a 3.1, and then I plugged it in and it wouldn't power up the board, right? Because USB-C requires a communication back before it gives it power, and didn't know that when I first started this. So that is actually one of the issues with this board right here is it won't. You have to put the USB A adapter on it to get it to power up, or it won't power up. So, but
Thank you.
anyway,
There is like one question in the chat. Do you have a good resource for PCB building out there? Like I understand it's like where did you order like the
oh yeah. So
components
I
from?
do a lot of my stuff from JLC, because I use their software and library and warehouse, and I I buy and store at least so if you do a big volumes, you buy parts in the thousands, and it's a whole different game. So, um, because you're buying the real, JLC will actually store that under your, your store, I guess, and then when you order more parts, they can pull from your stuff you've already paid for because you're buying it by the real or by the thousands. So yeah, it's one of those things where uh, I kind of started with them early on, before tariffs and all the stuff we have here in the states, with China, and they're still the price point is still good. So yeah, I still use them. PCB Way is another good one. I think they are overseas as well. But there's a couple of places here in the states like Advanced Circuitry and stuff like that, and Gorilla. If I need something fast and now, but the price point is obviously much higher. But for badges, I typically just do them in big runs from JLC. They will manufacture them. They also offer 3D printing service and a bunch of other stuff too. So um, um, and they also can do full color um, PCBs. You
Yeah,
know,
and
so
and
not just the white. They can do full printed
yeah,
stuff. So that's a little
that's cool.
reaching, but
And soldering, that's important.
yeah. So yeah, I started doing that too. We're sitting there, making the solder kits for certain companies wanted me to make like solder kits. So they have the villages for soldering at the conventions as well, and so I make a lot of little flats for people that just a little simple solder, battery stuff, nothing too complicated. So but just something so if you do have no solder experience, you can sit down and solder it up. So
Yeah,
and learn that, I guess.
yeah. I
Um,
wanted. Sorry.
no, go
Continue.
ahead.
I wanted to ask a question. Do you have like a GitHub page or like a resource that someone could like look at your designs or like anything?
So fox-pick.com is our website.
Yeah,
There's some stuff up there. I'll get more up. Yeah, there's some reference
yeah,
designs
yeah.
on there as well. From there, there's a link to my GitHub where I've posted code for some of these badges, so you can kind of see what that you know looks like. Um, I try to. I will probably release my libraries. I started using a certain chip that doesn't have a lot of support out there right now, but it's gaining more, and I wrote a lot of the libraries for it. So now that I've vetted those, I guess I'll start putting those available for people too. So yeah, so I try to stay as open as possible with everything I'm doing. So I don't like to hide the knowledge I have. So anything we have that's not proprietary is out there for people to use and see. So and then on Thingiverse, I do have some designs out there as well of things I've just designed. So I think it's under. I think the link's on our page as well. So yeah.
Yeah.
So my 3D stuff is on the Thingiverse out there somewhere, and then the other links are on the fox-pick.com. So
I just pinned that on the top of the chat so everyone
all right.
interested could see. Okay. Is there? Do you see the intersection of design and cybersecurity evolving in the next few years? Like, are there any emerging trends on technologies that you're excited about?
So I'm seeing a lot of like what they call like the LoRa stuff come about. So that long range stuff. I'm seeing a lot of cybersecurity firms develop their own boxes, like the drop boxes they have or the monitoring boxes that they have. So I see a lot of that coming about. Um, and so basically they can drop it off and monitor your system with their own box like that. So I'm seeing, and they are some custom stuff. So yeah, I'm seeing a lot of the engineering side start to make it to the cybersecurity side. I mean, I think it's always been there. But I think I see it more now in the hacker space as well. I think Hack5 was one of the bigger companies out there making hacker type tools. I see more of that coming about now too, and I see a lot of people making their own little things now because it's getting easier to do. Right now, I can just kind of go on Amazon and buy a little Arduino board or ESP32 board, then plug it up to a GPS module, and I can 3D print me a little box and put it all together and make it. And that's a good place to start, right? It's stuff with lots of support and already built for you, and really you're just figuring out code and how things talk and all that stuff, kind of stuff too. So I have plenty of these on my desk as well as pre-made boards that I order because it saves me time, and I can sit down and develop a lot of code and see what talks and what doesn't talk, or what's the best way for something to talk to something else. So yeah, so getting out there and just starting in that space, I think is getting to be more of a thing as people learn. As it's become easier, I guess not say learn, but this has become easier and more approachable. To start this way, because now you can take your code knowledge in hacking and Pythons and C sharps and all that kind of stuff and kind of translate it down to a microcontroller space, and then you make your own little you know widgets and stuff like that. So it's a good place to start.
Yeah, so thank you. And I have a question that like kind of like a closing questions.
Mhm.
But if anyone has any like more specific questions to Morgan, like please write them in the chat. You're like very welcome to have that. And okay, what qualities do you believe all highly successful designers share?
Um,
Yeah.
highly so basically, you know, willingness to learn the new stuff. Don't stagnate in whatever field you're in. Right, it's always changing. Whether it's hack space, whether it's design space, the electronic space, 3D printing space. All this stuff changes daily, and it's a constant learning curve. Don't be afraid of the AI and stuff like that. Go ahead and start asking it questions and having it kind of give you a roadmap to certain things that maybe you hadn't thought of. There are times I've gone on there just to see, again, what's the best chip to use for something, or what's the best user, you know, control for something else, or what's the best way for someone who doesn't have a lot of technical experience to interface with a badge, right? And it kind of can walk you through that because again, it's accessing all the knowledge so you don't have to, right? And simplifying it for you. So yeah, just basically never, always learn. I run into people all the time who are just stuck in their own little way and don't want to change it, and I don't see a lot of success, success there, right? And so if you're constantly willing to learn, and especially in the industry where you work at places who pay thousands of dollars a year for licensing and softwares and all that, learning and taking the time to do the classes for the software, or learn a new learning how a language works or all this stuff, they're already fronting the bill for you in CAD or these knowledge stuff, or even like the AI, the full versions of it and all that. They're fronting that cost. Go ahead and learn it. It helps you. It helps them. It helps everybody. And I feel like as long as you stay current, you'll always be useful. And that's kind of where we have to be. And then, you know, be creative. I think that's one of the things where people are always worried about AI taking their job. AI is not creative, and so as long as you can take that information and work with the tool and use your own creative spin to it, I think the relevancy is still there. Like I said, it's a good way to build a roadmap, but again, it doesn't excuse you from knowing the information it spits back to you, right? You have to make sure it's real and not a lie, right? So yeah, so yeah, just stay current, just keep learning, and then use the tools that are afforded to you to learn while you have the opportunity to do so. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that's like very good answer, and like thank you for sharing that. So, what early mistakes shaped you the most? What do you think? Like, and what did you learn from them?
So early mistakes. Let's see. So many.
Oh yeah.
So so I guess using the wrong tool for the job, right? There's we in the tech space world, there are lots of tools, there are lots of things to do. So, which is comes back to you should always be learning new things, right? If you know, let's say makes it a little bit better with show and tell. So this badge here worked great with micro pi on it, right? Worked great with it. Um, it ran the battery down in an hour. So sitting down and learning the C++ code and stripping it down to really get it to the nuts and bolts of the chip allowed it to run for 6 hours. And that's a huge gap, right? Because now we can turn things off and do these things that, the MicroPi, just because the clock cycles it took to run it. So just stuff like that, using the right tool, using the right language for the job, using the right microcontroller for the job, all that, will pay for itself. And it may require you to learn a lot. It may require you to learn a language. It may require you to learn a new chip, all those kinds of things. Just because even in any type of space, Python's great for one thing, but C# may be good for another. Go may be better. All these things is how do you want it to scale? What's the lifetime of what we're trying to build? What's it going on? Is it going to be fast enough? So I've made a lot of mistakes or had a lot of problems just because I didn't want to change what I was doing and used the old ways to do something, and then you're like, this could have been better if I just took the extra time to learn. So and then eventually you will end up going back and redoing it, right? And that's just life. And so you will have to learn e, uh, eventually, but yeah, just use the right tool, the right components, the right things to do the job. And don't use a wrench as a hammer, right? Get a hammer. It'll probably be better for you. So
Yeah, that's a fair point. So, what do you feel was your biggest win in life then?
biggest win. So my wife's like marrying her. Yeah.
Mm.
So in life is yes, meeting my wife and getting her to push. I probably wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for her. I'm gonna lie about that. Professionally, I think is starting the Foxpick stuff, right? It's allowed me to meet lots of people like yourself, and get to travel around and see the world and do all these kinds of things. And so yeah, just all those kinds of things. Like I just like what I'm doing. And but yeah, so professionally, I think it's the Foxpick world of building, because I get to build the games and all this stuff. And then in my life, meeting my wife, who pushed me to kind of do any of this. So yeah.
Yeah, so it comes to like, yeah, your wife. That's a great answer. Okay, like three more questions. What message would you like to convey to our listeners that are just starting in their own careers, especially those from underrepresented groups?
Yeah, so always learn from the people around you. There's in your field, not in your field. Don't be afraid to talk to to people. Um, get out there. I think in especially in the hacker world, because or in the computer world, we tend to sit in our offices, and our extent of talking to people is in the virtual space. I recommend getting out there and talking to people in conferences, and because they are in you'll run into people in all tiers of their life, right? Some people are CEOs, some people are just starting out, some people have been doing it for 5 years and feel like they need to move to another place. So just talking about what decisions they've made to get them to where they are. If you follow people on the internet who are doing things you want to do, surround yourself with people who are doing things you want to do, right? And then just getting out there and living life, right? Don't be afraid to do things because it's new. Do things because it is new, right? And the experience is worth more than anything else. So yeah, just as you're starting out, I recommend getting someone who is knowledgeable about what you like, and kind of building from that. And then in your careers, you're obviously going to be around people who've been doing it longer than you. Talk to them, ask them what they're doing, or why they did it this way. And then don't be afraid to ask questions. People like me and other people, I'm sure, love to talk about their careers and why they are where they are, right? So yeah, just don't be afraid to ask questions, and get out there and into the conferences and into that space, and talk to people in your field, or in a field you would like to be in, right? That'd be this field.
Yeah, like I have like an example from my own end. Like when I started working for Black Hills, like some people like I don't know, say that when they're like surrounded with smarter people that they are, they feel like intimidated and like compare themselves. And they're like, oh, I'm not good as that. But I actually felt like, oh, this is so great because those people are like much smarter than me and like more experienced. So I can learn a lot. And then, yeah, like approach like everything with a growth mindset, and that will pay you back and like your
Yeah.
experience and like, yeah, what you learn from those people. Okay, next question is, what's your favorite hacker movie and why does it resonate with you? I have to ask.
That's fine. No, probably Sneakers, right? That's a classic. A lot of physical in
Yeah, I love
Sneakers.
that one.
Yeah, it was a solid film. Yeah, uh, you know, uh, Hackers, I guess, was one that was out when I was a kid. It was or when I was of that age, so it was a decent film too. But I think Sneakers is one that probably sticks out the most there. So.
Yeah, like all of the hacker movies are like fun for like different reasons and like
Yeah. Well, there are some where you're like, that doesn't happen that way, and I think Black Hat or one of them
yeah,
like that. I was watching that, and I couldn't even watch it. It was so bad on just every part of that was bad. So yeah, it was like a little LED doesn't light up on the board when you go hack it, like stuff like that. I'm like, just it's all anyway. I could go on and on about that awful movie, but yeah,
yeah.
you know,
I
uh,
actually didn't. I actually didn't finish that movie. I was like, what?
yeah,
What's?
yeah,
No,
yeah.
no,
I could.
no.
I feel like if you knew anything about that, you would be like, this movie's terrible. But for like entertainment value, maybe I don't know.
Sure. Yeah,
No,
the main actor was handsome or something like that.
yeah, maybe.
Okay. Thank you for coming, and I
Oh,
really
thank you.
appreciate you. I hope like I feel like I could do better with my questions, but I hope it wasn't too bad. And
I'm sure
so
I rambled on. So someone
yeah,
said
yeah,
no,
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Or
Actually,
that wasn't terrible.
I wanted to listen to you ramble on because it was like you shared very valuable things there, and I didn't actually like see it as you like talking too much or something like that. But it was like actually, oh yeah, yeah, talk more and more. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Let's bring it on. Ok-
Well, if you want to talk to me face to face, we'll be in B-Sides NOLA. Go to their website, look at the dates. I think it's a Wednesday or something. And then in Nashville after that, and Knoxville, and several others. So, yeah, go to our webpage or keep us on the LinkedIn. Jeannie updates it all the time about where we're going to be. And yeah, I'm better in person, right? So,
Yeah, yeah.
as, but
Uh, I will make sure to like line something up and like meet you guys again in
All right.
person. Oh, I just sure uh by by I don't know how to read that. Pseudenola Nash Knox.
Yeah, it's B-sides New Orleans, I guess is what it is.
Ooh.
So we'll
Yeah, yeah.
be
Now
there,
you
and then
now
Nash
that you said
Knox
it,
Co-op and so forth. So yeah, yeah,
security.
we do a bunch.
Hack for kids.
Hmm.
Okay. Thank you for the comment. And Vicon. Oh, I will be in Vic. I want to be in Vicon. I don't know if I will be, but I want to be. I sent my cover papers there. Yeah,
Yeah.
Amsterdam. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Looking forward. Okay. My last question: what's your favorite food or dish? Because I'm a
My
foodie.
favorite what? Food?
Food.
Food. That's a hard one. It swaps per like year, I feel like, but actually it doesn't. A hot dog, and it's like a weird thing, but it's I like travel around, and every region has their own version of it, right? Like they have a
Yeah. Yeah.
Chicago dog or a Arizona dog, right? And so it's kind of like a comfort food that everyone seems to have, and it's available. But so yeah, I enjoy a good dog here and there, right? So that's probably one of my favorite foods. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Like definitely,
simple.
if you go to Germany, try their dogs. That's like
Yeah,
really good.
yeah, I've been there. Yeah. Um, and then yeah. So a hot dog is probably one of my favorite, just because again you can have a different one everywhere you go. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a good answer. So like yeah, thank you. And so, do you have any final words that you want to share, like golden thoughts of Morgan?
Golden thoughts. Yeah. Again, this I think the overall message here was just get out there and learn and do and be creative. Right. That's the kind of the takeaway here. We live in a world with a lot of information available to everybody, and I feel like we tend to uh, be numb to that. But as someone who grew up in the ages of a library, we had to like go and check out a book and learn from this book that's 10 to 20 years old, and go from there. That I can get on the internet now and ask an AI how to do something, and it spits it back for me. That's life changing, right? And I feel like we should be using it more, and not just to make you know memes, but to get out there and to make something real, and use it to improve what we are doing. So yeah, get out there and learn, and again, don't forget to start the project. Right, that's a big key there. Just you know don't and then, as my wife pointed out here a second ago, finish it. Right, that's another thing. So
Yeah,
there are
finish it.
things that are never going to be finished with me, because I'm like, I have to be the perfectionism has to be there, and it's never going to be perfect. Right, so but yeah, that's probably it. Just learn and get out there and build and create and be creative.
Yeah, that's a great thing to say at the end, and like so smart. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for coming to my podcast
Yep,
and
thank you.
sharing your experience, tips and tricks with people. And yeah, I really appreciate you. So I will finish now and like change the screen. But see you everyone on the next one. It's going to be on 8th of May, and I'm going to invite Lena Sisko. She is a former interrogator for the United States government, and like she's expert or body language. But like so, I'm like looking forward to that one as well. So like see you then, and like bye.
Bye, everybody.